Now that I've put you to sleep, I want to wake you up. So I'm going to start with a really quick review of the last few weeks of the month of March. The first Sunday of March, Michael talked to us about being loved. The title of the talk was "You Are Loved." You might, if you were here, you might remember the middle-aged white minister's rap. And yes, but more importantly, we were encouraged to access our inner wisdom. He also encouraged us to be pausing and breathing and listening and discerning. Then 2 weeks ago, it was my privilege to give a talk on the divine feminine called Warrior Women. And in that, I encouraged us all to access that divine feminine through that Sophia, right? The inner wisdom, the feminine side of wisdom, and through the 4 paths of the spiritual warrior. The positive path, where we see the beauty, we experience the joy around us. The negative path, where we process the pain and we let it go. The creative path, where we bring things into the world. And finally, the transformative path, where we do things for the benefit of the world. We give voice to the voiceless. We give power to the powerless. We raise up the disenfranchised. Last week, Michael was able to borrow from an old radio script of Charles Roth, A Song of Spring, which talked about the innate wisdom of the plants this time of year and how plants sprout and blossoms, bloom without having to worry about it. They're simply following what they are called to do from within, from the universe, and asking us to do the same and to give us the affirmations, I am, I can, and I will. Right? I am a child of God, and I can through the Christ within me, and I will do this. So I am a child of God. I can do this thing. I will do this thing. However, Michael also reminded us, we can't let it stop with us. We cannot use the lowercase am and make it ego-driven. I am is not about the world. I am is what we're doing for the world. So he challenged us to step into, we are all children of God. We can do this thing, and we will do this thing. He also gave us a tool from the times of Charles Roth, which was a time-tithing chart. I know some of you have been using it. I'm not trying to pressure anybody that wasn't here and didn't start using it. But the time-tithing chart, there are still some copies out in the fountain room as well, was a great tool for looking at how much time do we spend being focused on our spirituality. So each of these talks was its own unique individual talk. Correct? It was a whole thing unto itself. Am I correct? It's a real question. Like, did they seem complete? Okay. And yet each complete talk was part of this monthly focus on our inner wisdom, our power of wisdom. So each became a part of a bigger thing. And the month of March, where we're focusing on wisdom, is part of the whole year, where we are looking at moving from vision to creation, going from just seeing it to actually feeling the shift and being the change, correct? So each part grows into something greater. With me so far? Okay. So in integral theory, which Ken Wilber speaks a lot about, if anybody has heard or read Ken Wilber, he talks about a lot about integral theory. The individual parts are known as holons. That's H-O-L-O-N-S, holons. Same etymological root as holistic, right? So it means this thing is whole in and of itself, and yet it joins into something else and becomes part of a greater whole altogether. The term holon, by the way, was actually coined by Arthur Koestler in his book, The Ghost in the Machine. And that was like 1967, I think, is when he coined that term. One of the easiest ways to think about that for me is like cells in our body. We all went through middle school science. We know how cells look and what they do. Each cell, right, it's its own thing. It is whole. But then they join together and they become part of larger tissues and organs, and each thing is part of a larger whole. there's a story that was shared in A Ghost in the Machine, and it's called The Parable of the Two Watchmakers, and it was shared with Arthur Kessler by a gentleman named Herbert Simon. I'm going to read that to you. The Parable of the Two Watchmakers. There once were two watchmakers named Bios and Makos who made very fine watches. The phones in their workshops rang frequently. New customers were constantly calling them. However, Bios prospered, while Makos became poorer and poorer. In the end, Makos lost his shop and worked as a mechanic for Bios. What was the reason behind this? Watches consisted of about 1,000 parts each. The watches that Makos made were designed such that when he had to put down the mechanism for some interruption, for instance, answering the phone, it immediately fell into all of its individual pieces and had to be completely reassembled from the basic elements. On the other hand, Bios designed his watches so that he could put together sub-assemblies of about 10 components each, and then would take 10 of these sub-assemblies and put them together to make a larger sub-assembly, and then finally take 10 of the larger sub-assemblies to make the watch. So when Bios had to take a break to answer the phone or whatever the interruption was, the watches did not break up into their single elemental pieces, but into the sub-assemblies. Now, the watchmakers were each disturbed at the same rate of 1 disturbance per 100 assembly operations. However, due to their different assembly methods, it took Makos 4,000 times longer than Bios to complete a single watch. So, holons. It is the individual piece, but it also matters how they come together, how they function together, and how easily they fall apart. So here's a question for you. How many parts do you have? Millions? 206 bones. Good. 36 teeth. Some of us. There's no good, right, single answer to this. And I'll paraphrase Walt Whitman here, but like, we contain multitudes, right? Each of us contains multitudes on every level. But I guess my question would be, when you think about yourself, do you contain multitudes like Makos, where you get a disruption and everything falls apart? Or do you contain multitudes like Bios, where you get an interruption or a disruption and it may fall apart slightly, but not all the way down to basic level? Earlier we sang the Lauren Lane Powell song, From My Wholeness. From my wholeness, I know my oneness with God. Another real question, what does that mean to you? From my wholeness, I know my oneness with God. What does that mean? No wrong answers. What was that? Your core. Great. Connection to the whole. Great. Anybody else? Only 2 people have opinions. Yes, Crystal.
It's like a drop of water in the ocean. It contains everything that the ocean contains in a drop.
I love that analogy. Like a drop of water in the ocean, it's a complete drop in itself, and it contains everything that the ocean contains, but it also is part of it. Yeah. So, I'm curious, how many of you at some point in your life have been made to feel that there was a piece of you missing? Okay. Related but different, how many of you have been made to feel that in some way you were less than somebody else? Okay. How about any of you that were made to feel that something outside of you was missing in your life and you needed it in order to be complete? Getting more specific in that, who here has ever sought out a job or a relationship knowing that once you landed that, you would be complete? Right. Thank goodness we have all become enlightened and we're past that, right? We know better. No, it's all normal. This is all very normal. This is how we show up as humans in this world, but we are not just humans. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings first. If you notice too, I repeated the phrase often, made to feel. Because the feeling that way is not necessarily a natural state for most of us. But I cannot make you feel unwhole unless you participate in it. If you are secure in your wholeness, I can't change that. So when that feeling comes on us, and it will, it's natural, but understand that that's because some part of you is also allowing that to get into you. It's a choice that we make to doubt ourselves and start thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not as good. Maybe I'm not going to be the person I thought I was going to be. That's what we allow in. I hear voices. There's a great quote that comparison is the thief of joy. Many of us know that quote. It's attributed to Teddy Roosevelt. I'm not sure that he's the actual source, but that's where it's attributed. And there's so much truth in that. Comparison is the thief of joy. So you see what other people have. You see what other people do. You see how other people show up on social media, which is a very stylized way of showing their life. And you start feeling that jealousy of, oh, I want that thing. Who remembers as a child or remembers as an adult seeing it in children, where you can have children and they're all together and they're great, and there's stuff in the room and nobody cares about it until one of the children picks up a certain toy and starts really enjoying it, and then everybody wants it? We remember these experiences? That want is a natural thing. But obviously the children were not diminished by not having it. They were fine until they realized somebody else had it. That's all part of ego. That's all part of what the world then lets us see. We are such creatures. We worry so much about what other people have and what other people do that we had to create a term for it. FOMO. FOMO, fear of missing out. Right? Fear of missing out. FOMO has become this huge catchphrase because we're all so worried about what everybody else is getting that we're not. I can't recall what conference I was at. I'm sure it was either a music conference or an improvisational conference. And there were so many workshops, and the leaders said, we know that FOMO is a real thing, and we're asking you to lean into COMO, C-O-M-O, the certainty of missing out. You can't do every workshop. There is no possible way. So lean into the COMO, the certainty of missing out, which means you focus on the things that are important to you, and that's what you do, and you don't worry about the rest. And for me, it's like, gosh, that's a good philosophy. That's just that certainty of missing out. Okay, yeah. I will never have and do and be everything. That's okay. I don't have to. There are things that I am called to do in this world. It's not everything. So I asked how many parts you have, how many parts make you up. I'm going to get philosophical here for a second. Aristotle believed that every living thing was made up of two primary parts. There was the material part, the bodily part, and then there was the part that actually activated, the life part of it, the thought behind it, which he called the soul. So we had the body and the soul. And I love, like, Aristotle has some great things. I'm sure if anybody is like a philosophy major and wants to debate Aristotle with me after the talk, that's fine. But for now, just lean into it. It's fine. So Aristotle also was attributed with saying the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So meaning I have a body and I have a soul, but together we're somehow something even more, right? Now I do want to be clear, when in unity, when the term soul is used, Charles Fillmore viewed it a little bit differently. So I'm going to talk about that. So for Charles Fillmore, there were three parts, and I get behind this wholeheartedly. So Charles saw the body, same, right? This is the physical aspect, the manifestation in this world of how we show up. And then Charles had the soul and the spirit. So for the Fillmores, spirit was that I am, that divine mind, divine idea. It was more of what Aristotle would view as the soul. It was that more animating factor. The soul, for Charles Fillmore, was the part of us that actually has the personality. It's the consciousness. It's our conscious and subconscious mind. It's the mind that is shaped by spirit. So it's our innate nature as it also relates to the world, and it gets shaped by the world. That's how he viewed the soul. In modern terminology, that is often just called the mind, body, mind, spirit. So for me, when I look at that, and for years I have said this, to me, body, mind, spirit equates to the Holy Trinity. And if that sounds sacrilegious to you, let me lead you through a little bit. So body, mind, spirit. You have the creator, you have the act of creation, and you have the created, right? You have God, you have Holy Spirit, which is the movement, and you have the body of the Christ. That's the Trinity. You are living the Trinity. So, and to be clear, the Christ. When we talk about the Christ within, the Christ consciousness, the Christ lives within each person as that perfect divine idea of what humanity can be. The concept of the Christ was around long before a man named Jesus or Yeshua or Yesu walked the earth. The Christ is that perfect concept. Going back to Aristotle for a moment, the concept of wholeness. There were two ways that Aristotle looked at wholeness that I think are very pertinent to the talk today. The first is that something whole, that which is missing none of the parts of which it is said to be naturally a whole. And I think we're all pretty familiar with that. Oh, I have a vase. Oh, I broke the vase. I can glue it back together, but I'm missing a piece. It's no longer whole. There are even those that would say, well, it's been broken. Even though it's glued, it's no longer whole. I would argue, no, it's back to being whole. It's just missing a piece, right? That's that first discussion, that first view of it. That is worldview. That is ego view, because the second one is that which contains the things it contains in such a way they form a unity, either as being together in one single thing or as making up the unity between them. So you get the body and you get the soul, or the body, the soul, the spirit, and those things come together. That is whole. Does that make sense, the difference between those two? Right? Because you're not going to be missing a piece here in that wholeness, because it's about the unity of them that makes them whole. So as long as you have a functioning body, it's whole. Doesn't matter. None of the rest matters. You know, I know as we all go through life, changes happen in our body. Things we used to be able to do, we can no longer do. Or sometimes things we couldn't do, we can. But none of that changes your wholeness, because you're still a body that is animated by spirit and still has a conscious mind. You are whole. There is nothing and no one that can take that away from you. So it doesn't matter what kind of body you have. It doesn't matter what color of skin, what height, what weight, any of that, any of it. Your worldly possessions don't matter, right? None of that matters to wholeness. You can perceive that you're missing something, but in truth, you're missing nothing. You have everything because you are whole. You are loved just because you exist, right? You are whole just because you exist. So before I come to an end, I want to share a poem by Mary Oliver. And I would love for this, I did something similar to this before, but I would love you to take these two fingers, place the tips of them on your pulse point on your wrist. You should be able to feel your heart pulsing. If you can't, try moving it around until you feel it. I'm sure everybody's heart is beating in this room at this moment, because I see you're all alert. So feel that heartbeat. And I want you to feel that, and close your eyes if you're willing to as I read this poem. I go down to the edge of the sea, how everything shines in the morning light. The cusp of the whelk, the broken cupboard of the clam, the opened blue mussels, moon snails, pale pink and barnacle scarred, and nothing at all whole or shut, but tattered, split, dropped by the gulls onto the gray rocks, and all the moisture gone. It's like a schoolhouse of little words, thousands of words. First, you figure out what each one means by itself. The jingle, the periwinkle, the scallop, full of moonlight. Then you begin slowly to read the whole story. You can open your eyes, but keep feeling that pulse right now. Keep feeling that life. Or if it works better for you, you might put your hand over your heart. That's fine too. Because you may see yourself as tattered or split or dried out. All the things that Mary Oliver observed on that beach. But it's because you're not looking at the whole story. You're seeing scars, you're seeing damage. You don't see the life, you don't see the wholeness that's left behind. You're here to live the life that you were born to live, right? Not somebody else's version of it. Not even your own warped version of it based on what you see in somebody else, but the life that you were born to live. You are not here to see yourself as lesser. You are not here to see yourself as lacking. You are not here to see yourself as hopelessly broken. You are not here to see yourself as that piece of pottery that's missing something, because a vase may not heal, you do. You can heal. Bodies heal. Minds heal. Spirits heal. Maybe with scars, maybe taking a lot of time, and maybe through pain. But you're a child of God, and you can heal, and you will heal. Repeat it after me. I am a child of God. I can heal. I will heal. We will heal. And so it is. Amen, amin, aho, ashe, namaste.